Hello everyone, Pratima here. So until last year, my primary phone had been the iPhone 15 Pro Max. I think it was the best phone of 2023. I love the new 5x lens, I love the new improved weight, I absolutely love the gaming experience here, and since I use a MacBook, AirPods and the Apple Watch, it perfectly fits in with my ecosystem as well. But since the start of the new year, my primary phone has been the Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra. It did have some issues initially, but most of the problems have just been fixed with the February update, including camera optimizations. So I think this is the right time for me to compare these two phones. The S24 Ultra is of course the best phone Android has to offer. It's a complete package than any other Chinese phones that I have tasted recently. So the question is, can the S24 Ultra beat the iPhone 15 Pro Max? For this, I have divided this comparison video into more than 10 segments which carry different points, as you can see from this chart right here. Okay, so design first, and this year both these phones use a more robust and lighter titanium frames. And because of this, the iPhone 15 Pro Max feels much lighter compared to the iPhone 14 Pro Max, which uses a heavier stainless steel material. Whereas coming from the S23 Ultra to the S24 Ultra, I do not feel the difference in weight that much. The iPhone 15 Pro Max also features a more premium grade 5 titanium versus grade 2 titanium on the S24 Ultra. So technically, it should be more durable and you might have fewer scuffs on the iPhone if you happen to drop it in concrete. But the weird thing is that the iPhone 15 Pro Max did bend in Jerry Riggs' test, whereas the S24 Ultra survived it just fine. Plus, in the drop test conducted by PhoneBuff, the S24 Ultra's display turned out to be more durable than the iPhone 15 Pro Max. Regardless, both these phones are well built, but still they're made of glass, so if you happen to break them, the display replacement cost of the iPhone here is more than twice as expensive as the S24 Ultra. Same with their battery and back glass replacement as well. Anyway, I like the fact that both these phones now have a flat screen, so there is no chance for accidental mistypes or difficulty when playing games on either of them. But one thing I experienced is that these sharp boxy edges on the S24 Ultra has made my life a little difficult, especially when I'm playing games for a longer period of time. So if I had to choose one of them for gaming, as far as the ergonomics go, the iPhone 15 Pro Max has a more comfortable grip and a relatively handy form factor for me. But in the display department, I have to go with the S24 Ultra. Don't get me wrong, both these phones are pretty neck and neck in terms of colors, the touch response and all that. Although the S24 Ultra for me is slightly ahead, as I love these uniform bezels and the non-obtrusive punch hole. Plus, this thing can get slightly brighter too, both outdoors as well as while streaming HDR content. Samsung has also fixed that dull color issue in the Vivid mode with the latest update, and you can now go into the display settings and choose how vibrant you want its display to be. But what's great about this year's Samsung's display is that it is layered with the all-new Gorilla Glass armor protection, which is a lot less reflective than the iPhone. So whenever you're using these two phones under direct sunlight or anywhere with a lot of bright lights, those annoying reflections are quite minimal on Samsung's S24 Ultra. I also like the S24 Ultra's vibration feedback. It just feels more precise while typing and using the navigation buttons. The iPhone 15 Pro Max does support Dolby Vision HDR though, which Samsung phones and even TVs are still lacking to this date. However, I'm a little disappointed with both of them for not offering high-frequency PWM dimming, which helps with headaches if you're more sensitive to screen flickering. Most Chinese phones these days offer this feature, but sadly, both Apple and Samsung are stuck at just 480Hz and 490Hz dimming respectively. When it comes to the audio, I like them both, since both of these phones offer good quality sound. But if I had to nitpick, I would go with the iPhone, as it gets slightly slightly louder and sounds fuller too. For instance, in Led Zeppelin's Stairway to Heaven, Jimmy Page's guitar string sounds fuller and the vocals of Robert Plant is also more pleasant to listen to on the 15 Pro Max. Now, for the software experience, things are a lot more exciting this year with Samsung as it brings some really cool AI features that I find useful as well, like Circle to Search and Writing Assistant, which are something I have been using regularly these days. Samsung has also taken things to the next level this time by committing to 7 years of updates on the S24 series. Not only does it help the phone age better with time, but longer software updates also mean that the S24 Ultra is going to have a much better resale value. Sounds fantastic, but at the end of the day, Apple's sheer brand power means that iPhone will always have a higher resale value. Apart from that, there are things that you might like about Android and things that you might hate about iOS. For instance, there are things that iPhones are still not good at. For example, if you don't use a MacBook, copying files from an iPhone to Windows is just a pain in the neck. Setting primary and secondary SIM for calls is quite tedious, and you still don't get features like call recording, split screen, or multi-window on an iPhone even in 2024. Then again, the iPhone still has an edge when it comes to app optimization, be it when you're live on Instagram, switching between the lenses, shutter speed of the camera app, or just sharing a story on Snapchat. The iPhone is more optimized. Likewise, you will get a better gaming experience on the iPhone 15 Pro Max as well. The Snapdragon 8 Gen 3 technically has a better GPU than Apple's A17 Pro, but in real-life usage, the iPhone is better optimized. In PUBG Mobile, for instance, if there are many players in a close circle, you might notice slight lags on the S24 Ultra, whereas that is not a problem on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. This thing can also run some console level games, and you can even play games like Genshin Impact at 120 FPS here. So if you're a serious gamer, the iPhone 15 Pro Max is still the way to go in 2024. For thermals, Samsung has almost doubled the size of its vapor chamber cooling system compared to the S23 Ultra, whereas you still get the same old tiny graphite sheet on the iPhone 15 Pro Max to spread the heat. But here too, Apple has optimized the chipset very well with multiple updates so far, and as you can see from this chart, it handles the thermals as good as the S24 Ultra. In terms of battery, I'm getting very similar results too. Both these phones will last for a full day even on heavy usage. You can also check a ton of battery comparison tests on YouTube between the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max, which will show you that these two phones offer almost identical battery backup. Charging is slightly faster with the S24 Ultra though, as its 45-watt charger can take the phone from 0 to 70% in just 30 minutes, or like an hour for a complete refill. Whereas the iPhone goes from 0 to 50% in 30 minutes but takes more than 1.5 hours for a full charge. Plus, the S24 Ultra also supports reverse wireless charging, which can be useful to juice up your earbuds or smartwatch in case of an emergency. Okay, finally, it's time to talk about the cameras. Actually, the reason I've come up with this video a little late is that the S24 Ultra's cameras had some issues with optimization initially, but I'm glad to report that most of those issues have now been fixed with the recent update, and since then, I have taken over 500 photos and videos from these two phones. So let me tell you real quick about my experience. During the day, I think the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max are pretty neck and neck, both from the primary and ultra-wide-angle cameras. You get that classic Samsung color science with a little bit of pop and saturation and more emphasis on blues from the S24 Ultra, while the iPhone tries to keep it warm and natural. But at times, Samsung lifts the shadows slightly better and you might get a slightly better dynamic range. Whereas when I'm trying to take a photo of my pet, the details in the fur are more natural on the iPhone. However, I think the area where Samsung does it better is during the dusk, where iPhone's contrast just is not as good. And with the recent update, Samsung has significantly improved low-light photography as well. It's now brighter and sharper, making it a tad bit better than iPhone in most scenarios. iPhone's processing makes everything look a little warm, which can look good in some cases, but most of the time the S24 Ultra is giving me better results. But Samsung's night mode can still be a hit or a miss. It just overprocesses everything, so until you absolutely need night mode, it's better to stick with default photo mode on both of these phones. I also think Samsung does a better job in the 1x and 2x portrait departments, as the shots look more pleasing and social media ready. Now, when it comes to zoom photos, Samsung was always streets ahead of the iPhone if you roll back like a year ago, but this time both of these phones have a dedicated 5x periscope lens, which number one allows you to take zoom shots and number two allows you to take beautiful portraits as well. And before the update on the S24 Ultra that I talked about, the iPhone 15 Pro Max was clearly performing better in this aspect. It had better bokeh, it was sharper with much better subject focus, whereas Samsung's 5x portraits usually came off softer. But after the update, Samsung has fixed most of the issues. I still think iPhone's 5x portraits are more consistent, like 8 out of 10 times, whereas Samsung can also take some really good 5x portraits. As for the regular 5x zoom shots, if I'm taking a photo of moving subjects like a monkey or a bird, for example, I am getting slightly more consistent results with better sharpness from the iPhone. Although if I have to take a billboard or a building photo, Samsung performs better. Honestly, I expected Samsung to do better here given its experience in the zoom category, but the iPhone with its first attempt at a periscope camera is impressive. But that experience of continuously developing zoom cameras since the S20 Ultra really shows on Samsung's flagship once you are zooming photos beyond 5x or 10x threshold. You will find that Samsung's computational algorithm is just on the next level. Not just that, but the S24 Ultra even lets you zoom up to 100x and take crazy moonshots versus measly 25x photos on the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The S24 Ultra also has an extra 3x lens, by the way, which offers an extra degree of flexibility when taking portraits. With the iPhone 15 Pro Max, you are restricted to either 1x, 2x or 5x shots. The 3x lens is a good middle ground to have, and I am glad that Samsung is keeping this lens, unlike Apple. I like the selfies from both of them though. Samsung's selfies are a lot more processed and brightened, which some people might prefer, while the iPhone likes to keep it natural. As you can see from this sample, the S24 Ultra brightens the subject's face as well as dark circles, which looks more pleasing. For videos, I'm really happy to see the year-on-year improvement Samsung has made, and I can finally take out the S24 Ultra and count on it as a reliable video camera. It has gotten so much better than what we previously used to get on a Samsung flagship from 3 or 4 years ago. Having said all that, it's not as reliable as the iPhone 15 Pro Max. The iPhone's videos are just smoother and have better highlights and natural blur in most of the cases. And if you're filming during low light, Samsung tends to brighten up the footage, but the actual video quality is just better from the iPhone. Just look at this 4K 60fps ultra wide angle video. The iPhone is much better here, and same with the selfies, as it has a wider field of view for you to comfortably record your vlogs or share them on social media. So overall, videography wise, although Samsung has improved a lot, iPhone still remains the undisputed champion. Alright, let's take a final look at the scoreboard, and as expected, it is a really close battle between these two phones. If you recall, things were all the same with last year's Galaxy S23 Ultra and the iPhone 14 Pro Max as well, and this rivalry has reached new heights this time. There are definitely some things that the iPhone is better at and some things that the S24 Ultra does better. But I cannot emphasize enough just how minimal of a difference there is, and that you cannot go wrong with either of them. I know I sound a little bit diplomatic, but the S24 Ultra and the iPhone 15 Pro Max really are two of the best smartphones money can buy right now. It's like comparing Messi and Ronaldo. So, like always, picking one from the other ultimately boils down to two factors: your usage and where you're from. Personally, I'm someone who's constantly taking videos from my phone, whereas I've also been obsessed with taking 5x portraits lately. Not to mention, I use a lot of Apple ecosystem products, so the iPhone 15 Pro Max clearly makes the most sense for me. But if you're more comfortable with the Android ecosystem, then what the S24 Ultra offers simply cannot be beat. And the versatility of this S Pen is something else entirely. I don't really care for it that much, to be honest, but I have a lot of friends who say that the S Pen is irreplaceable for them, especially my engineering buddies who need a stylus to quickly draw a diagram during their field trips and stuff like that. Other than the ecosystem thing, pricing is another factor to consider if you're living in Asia, since iPhone is just a little bit overpriced here and the S24 Ultra is often available with exciting deals in the offline market as well. So everybody, that was all for my full and extremely detailed comparison of the iPhone 15 Pro Max and the S24 Ultra. Which one would you go for? Do let me know in the comments. Till then, I'm Pratima Adhikari. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back with a next video.